while we're just waiting for them shockers to sort themselves out, I thought I might as well make a start on the clutch. So I'm just going to film myself whilst I put the new clutch on our engine, one of our engines that we're running this year. This is a little trick that I use for our engines. We've got it's like a woman's hairband here that I've got around the carburettor, just for if the linkage falls off, that it recalls it and closes it shut. There's lots of different methods. Normally you see like a manky rubber band around here, but this just looks a bit neater, so might be of some use to someone. Right, so the first thing I'm going to do on here is I'm just going to put some thread lock into this nut here, and it's just because invariably you tend to find that these nuts come loose, so I just want something in the thread just to try and help it just get a bit better purchase so that it doesn't come undone. There's going to be more in relation to that I'll show you, but that's just what I'm going to do for now. If it was a real problem, it never has been really on the X-Ray, but if it is a real problem, then what I tend to do on this nut is I'll put plumbing tape on it, what you use on like rads and stuff to try and help it stop from coming undone. The thing that I'm going to do on the clutch is just give everything a bit of a clean. Just like the 2-speed, this is all brand new, so it would have just come out of the machine. So a lot of this stuff, as you can see here, gets covered in oil at the point in time of it being machined. So I don't want that going onto that clutch shoe because it's just going to make it not as effective. So just going to give it a bit of a clean up. I have been known to use a little bit of wet flat on the inside of this just to make sure that the surface is nice and smooth and flat. These days I just tend to just clean it off with some brake cleaner. In the pack we've got like these washers here for behind the conical bush that goes on the crank there, and from what I can remember, I'll have to check this, but I'm pretty sure that I put all of them on just so that it brings the flywheel forward. And in this car it sits quite far back in the hole, so I'm just putting all of them on there. Now when you put these on here, I put them all on, push it all up so it's tight, but then I press this end here and then you'll get like a bit of play in it, and I think it's best to have that bit of play there because this is all going to get hot, and because this is all going to get hot, it's all going to expand. So I think it's better to have that bit of play on the end rather than trying to bush out all the play. So that's just what I do. Might be totally wrong. Put the flywheel on, put the flywheel nut on that we've put some thread lock on. Then we need our plugs, glow plug spanner again, and on the opposite side it's got a slightly bigger nut hole, and you use that to do this clutch nut. and then there's a tool. This tool here, again, had this for years. Drives me crazy because like you can get a hoodie set now that's proper trick and they're all matching. There's all my stuff is all mismatched because I've just purchased it over the years when I've gone to like events and stuff, but I need them all. And one day if I continue to do 8 racing, I might get the hoodie stuff because it just looked mint. Or who knows, maybe someone will treat me to something one day. So you put that tool on there and then just tighten it up. Pretty much as tight as you can get it. There's lots of theories around how you should tighten that up because they think, oh right, that's going to bend the pins or whatever. But as we can see, there's still a little bit of play left in that there now. So that's perfect, I think. Right, the next thing we're going to do is, in these weights that we've got, I'm going to put a grub screw inside them. So it's just a tiny little grub screw. Let's measure it and see what it is. So it's a 3mm grub screw. I think it's 3x3. Yeah, 3x3 grub screw. And I just pop that in the hole that's not going to sit on the pins. So on this one, this is going to be the hole that's going to sit on the pin. So I'm going to put it in that hole. And yeah, I should do my normal trick of tightening this in from the bottom. You definitely do not want any metal showing on this side, and you definitely don't want any metal showing on this side because they're both going to be in contact with other bits of aluminium. So that's just about perfect. Don't know what you need to be able to see that, but it's not standing proud anywhere, so that's perfect. So just do exactly the same on the next one. I don't know if it's trailing edge or leading edge. I always forget the orientation, but this is the way around that mine are going to go. So like that. So they're going to lever out this way like this. Cap on. Oh. That on there. Loads of people mix and try different versions of clutch spring. To be honest, I'm not so passionate about it these days. I seem to be able to get most things working to a level that's efficient enough for a meeting. It comes with the ultra soft spring here. I've used really hard springs, I've used linear springs, non-linear springs, I've used all sorts, whatever people have recommended over the year. The best thing I could probably suggest is either go with what the manufacturer suggests in the book, or from a video that you've watched of somebody that you trust trackside. Just watch someone on the track and see what their clutch is like, and then just ask them and just put it to the same. So if it's a different manufacturer's spring, to be able to achieve the same as them and knock yourself out, do that. To be honest, I'm not. Right. So with this clutch nut on the Xray, unlike a lot of clutches in the past, we don't put much load on it. So I just measure the collar there, then zero your caliper, and then measure your nut depth. So that says 0.67. And I'm going to leave it at that. And what I always do with my clutch spring nuts, is you see how there's like the hole for where your tool has just been in there to be able to tighten it up. I always put that in line with a pin, and then what I'll do is I will mark the clutch shoe there just with a bit of permanent pen on that pin to denote that that's where that clutch nut was. So then when I'm checking it at the meeting, I can tell whether that nut has moved, not only by the measurement but by just a visual check there. So because it's hard to get a measurement once the engine's in situ inside the car, so I just put that bit of ink there, and then I'll just be able to open it up and have a look. So whenever I'm setting it up, if someone says to you, set your clutch spring to 0.8 or like 1 millimeter, if that was like 1.1 millimeters there to that pin, I would set it there compared to there, which might be like 0.8, because I'd rather have like 0.1 and know that my spring and everything is still in line than like be exact to that vernier. And to be honest, are you actually being that exact? It's so hard to hold that level on there and then get a reading consistently on there. Just doing that, then that says 0.8 now. Who knows? So next bit we're going to do is going to put these pinions on this clutch bell. And the way I do it is I've got this tool here, which is a bit broken because, as I said, I've had them for years. But what I get is my 1.5 spanner, put that through these holes there, and then I get this, and I want to tighten it up. So normally with the thrust race, there's normally a bigger one and a smaller one. I'm certain whether that's the case here or not. Okay. Both look about the same size to me though. Build up this thrust race. And to be honest, I've never really taken too much care over doing the thrust race because I've never ever had trouble with it. So I'm just using some associated black grease here. So the way it goes is you've got two small bearings in there. And then the big bearing will go on the back there, but I'm not going to put that on yet because of the way that I set my clutch up. So I put all that together, and so I've got this little tool here which has got different thicknesses on it, and I'm going to use this to measure my gap. Now a lot of people will do it with like the vernier and try and set the gap up that way, but to be honest, this is the way that I do it. I'm not saying it's the right way, I'm not saying it's the wrong way, I just think it's just easier. So what I want is 0.5 to 0.6 gap, and unfortunately I've messed up. Because this is new, it's not achieving that gap. So I'm going to have to remove some from behind there. What will happen is that it settles. I will end up with all them washers behind there, but until everything's bedded and settled, you can't achieve that gap. But you get to see another tool that I use for on the clutches, which is this clutch bell extraction tool. Just pop it over like that. Again, had it for years, so it doesn't match anything else. Just put it on there. Already feel that there's loads more playing that now. And that's going up to 0.7, I think now. 0.6. So I'm just going to pop a tiny shim in that, because as it beds, that gap will get bigger anyway. You can see that that's sitting on 0.5 now. It's got a bit of play in it, so it probably would just flick over onto 0.6. But as I said, because this is brand new, it's gonna bed in and it's going to find its own seating, which isn't what it's going to be at the moment. So I would check this quite soon after running, after probably about 20 minutes on the track, 30 minutes on the track. I'll have this back apart and just check to make sure that things haven't moved, and just check that all the measurements are still what I think they should be. So all that this is achieving is creating a distance between this bell and the clutch shoe, and that's important because there's a period of time whilst the engine's revving up where the two aren't engaged, and that gap determines when this shoe is going to engage onto that bell, and that's why it's so important. Because if the revs are too low, the engine's going to bog down and it won't pull away. If the revs are too high, it's just going to slip and not and just generate heat and just be dead inconsistent. Won't last 30 minutes. Won't be stable for 30 minutes. It just cannot express how important this bit is to an 8th car. It's a new screw going into metal, so of course I put some thread lock on. Don't go crazy with this screw though, because if you do, you'll end up squeezing it out in between the two metals, and that's not a good thing. Right, so I've tightened that up as tight as I can get it myself, and then I want just a tiny bit of play still in it, again because of the heat. You just don't want it solid, you want a bit of play in it, which this has got just a tiny bit. It's quite firm at the moment because everything is new.